Good night. You guys get me again today because we had a last minute bailout. So I am teaching Win with Buyers, and I'm excited for this one because this is our first real one where we start diving into the transaction. Everything before this is basically generating leads. And now we're finally in the transaction. I want this class to be very hands-on. We're going to do a whole lot of things today. So you should actually leave with things and hopefully it'll be a little bit more interesting. So like I said, we started a whole bunch with lead generation. We moved to the lead follow-up, and now we are on to the transaction. Who has closed a transaction before here? Okay, we got one expert. Good. Good. So I won't be alone here. If you do not do lead generation, you will never get a transaction. The only exception to that is I feel like the lead generation you did for your whole life where you had like your dad needs to sell a property. That might be the only time that not doing lead generation gets you a transaction. But I would argue your whole life to this point has been lead generation with him, kind of an idea. So there's no skipping this. You are going to generate leads. If you do not follow up with them, you're hopefully touching them at the exact right point when they're ready to go. So do not skip over the lead generation and lead follow-up because you'll never get a transaction. So here's our game plan for today. We're going to talk about A buyers, getting appointments, preparing for the consultation, conducting the consultation, and getting the signed buyer agreement. Sound good? The right approach to close for a meeting is the only approach. Just ask for it. Have you guys gone on appointments yet? Raise your hand if you have. Ooh, one expert. Well, then let's talk about this a little bit. The whole idea from your lead generation is to lead to an appointment. That's what you should be doing. Even this, you've probably seen this a whole bunch of times. Lead capture, right, goes into your database. The leads go to contacts that hopefully prepare them for conversion, and then they become your clients, and it's new and repeat and referral business that go into contacts. This is called the lead generation model. We talk a lot about this. Leads and contacts is where we've been talking mostly, but we want to convert them into clients. So if we're talking about this, what do you think an A buyer is? By the way, I don't call them A buyers in my life. I call them HOTs because it's way more fun. Like, oh yeah, that's a hot buyer. Pre-approved, ready to go. What else do you guys think? Making sure my clicker works. Oh no, oh, now I'm clicking too much. Yeah, Gary Keller defines this as ready, willing, and able. And they are now business, meaning like 2 weeks, maybe they'll go under contract. Does anyone have one of these people right now that you think might be ready, willing, or able? Are they a real person? I did receive text messages over the weekend from other people that are like, hey, am I getting scammed? I have this lead from Command. They want to meet, but we've only talked on WhatsApp. I don't think they're real. Yeah, real people don't talk on WhatsApp unless they're out of the country. If they're out of the country, they would say, oh, I'm out of the country, and be very upfront with you on that. Probably not real. So ready, willing, and able. That's what we're looking for. Any questions on what ready, willing, and able means? This is so easy. You guys are already pros. So if they are ready, willing, and able, we are going to take them all the way through the 7 cycles of the buyer cycle. And we are going to run through most of this today. So we're going to dive into this. So our first is they are a lead and we will get them for an appointment. Next step is prepare for the buyer consultation. We will go do the buyer consultation. We will find a home. We will offer and negotiate the contract. We will close the contract. And then we have this whole post-close idea. We will not talk about post-close. We will not talk about contract to close. We're not going to do a whole lot of offer and negotiate today. So it's more of this like lead all the way to finding a home is where we're going to focus today. So this is what everyone's going to go through. I don't want any ahas. So let's convert some appointments right now. So as you get buyers, this works for sellers too. Some of the things that are very important are responding quickly. If you do happen to be trying to generate online leads, I think responding very quickly is the most important thing. If you can call someone, like imagine if you were on a website looking at like, let's say a car, you're car shopping, and you fill out a form and you're like, I'm interested in this Tesla Cybertruck. I don't know why you would be, but you click on that and then within a minute, your phone rings and you don't know the number. Who just called you? Is it Tesla? Are they like, hey, we just got your form? If that were true, you were probably more likely to pick up the phone because you think they are calling you. Speed to lead is very important in things. Now, if you get a referral from a friend or family, do you have to call them that instant? Probably not, but why not? When you go to an open house, when should you follow up with them after you've talked to them? Can you call them that same day? Say, it's great to meet you. Let's go shop and look at houses. I don't think any of those are wrong answers. But if you are not responding, you are not going to move forward with this. Obviously, you need to get as much information as humanly possible. If you do not have a phone number, it is very hard to convert leads. Has anyone ever sent out an email and got a response from anything? Like, I feel like no one reads emails 90% of the time. I'll tell my buyers and sellers like, hey, by the way, in real estate, we do a lot of emails back and forth. So check your email. And they're always like, oh, I don't have any of that. Or like you have the unread, like a 10,000 kind of a thing. Number 3, determine motivation so you can speak to it. Set the appointment, time and date for as soon as possible. If you talk to someone today and they said, I want to buy a house, how confident are you to set an appointment with them? Yeah, you talk to a friend, they're like, yeah, I want to buy a house. Do you think you could set an appointment with them? How would you do that? Wait, when do you have time to meet? Trial close, right? How else would you do that? You're talking to someone. What makes you buy a house? Get that motivation. Like that. Anything else? I want to talk about this because there are 7 closes that you could use. Have you guys heard these before? I rattled them off in the last class I taught. Show the benefits to help close them. The take back close. We're not going to find these. There's good examples in the shift book. How fast can I find them, you think? Oh, they list them different. Take back, take back. I've really enjoyed visiting with you. To be honest, I'm not sure if I can help out or not, but I'd be honored if we could meet to find out. Shift. It's a good book. The negative positive. Let's see if they have an example for that one. Would you be offended if I asked if we could meet to go over this? Would you be offended? Doesn't really sound like negative positive to me, but give them what they're looking for. Oh, you want to buy a house? Okay, we need to meet next. That's just the next step in the process. The trial close. This is what Bill did. Can you meet later today or would tomorrow be better? You're just a yes or no. Assumptive close. Do they have a better example in mind? Oh, it sounds like we should meet. I'm available most time this week. What works best for you? That's my favorite. I'm an assumptive closer. I'll like be on the phone with my friends and I'll talk to them a whole bunch and with leads, whatever. I'll go through, I'll ask them all these questions, and then I'm like, you know what? It sounds like we should meet. And then they just say yes. I'll be like, you know what? Let's meet. Tie downs. Wait. Would it make sense for us to meet in the next day or so? Okay. So let's kind of all bring this together. I think the very most important thing as you're going through all of this and setting an appointment is to find their motivation. If you know why someone is looking to buy or sell, it is very easy to move things forward. If you have no idea why, you're grasping at straws and guessing. So the first thing is let's figure out your motivation. What is a question you can ask to find their motivation? That was a little more direct than I was looking for, but it wasn't far off. Why do you want to buy?
Yeah, I guess you could, ask a question like, well, what are you looking for? Kind of, pick up a little. Well, I'm looking for a 6 bedroom house. This one only has 3. Okay, in your mind, you're like, okay, the family's growing, they want more space. What do you build up the area? What area are you looking for? Well, I'm looking for an area with more parks.
Yep.
Okay, now I'm starting to pick up a theme that I have kids, I have family, I want more parks, really, it's about my family.
Yep.
It's not about work, it's not about locating for sort of commute. That's not on the list.
Yeah.
I ask them each other.
When, yeah, as you're going through it, it's really easy. You can ask them why, right? Like, oh, you want 6 bedrooms. Oh, why do you need 6? Oh, because I have a gaggle of children, a horde of family members, like whatever. Oh, that's interesting. Also, like getting down to the nitty-gritty like that is very important because, for example, in this 6 bedrooms, describe this family that Bill just made up in his mind. Who's buying a 6 bedroom house? What are they like? Everyone has their own room, so maybe like 5 kids and the parents, 6 bedrooms. How old are the kids? Probably about 10, right? Because they're all wanting their own rooms. Little kids can share way easier than teenagers can. What if it's like the parents with older children and they have their grandkids stay all the time? Or one of their children still lives in the house but has kids, and so they want 3 bedrooms up, 3 bedrooms down. There's a lot of scenarios where a 6 bedroom home, like maybe both the husband and wife work from home, so they need 2 separate offices, and then they want a bedroom for all their kids. Like there's a lot of scenarios. And so a lot of times we will assume things and we need to move just slightly past that in curiosity. So when they say, oh, I want a 6 bedroom home, tell me more. Why 6? And then you get to know that. And if they say like, oh, we need 2 offices, I'm like, oh, so if you had like like a den or an actual office in the front of the house, like that would that work? If it was enclosed, like great, awesome. So maybe a 5 bedroom with an extra space. Why do you need those 5 bedrooms? So you can start to get this motivation. So here's what I want you to do right now. We're going to practice this. I would like you to set an appointment with a partner. So everyone partner up, and you can even have a threesome partnership if you need to. But I want one of you to be the buyer, the potential buyer. Make up whatever your motivation is. It could be real. This is probably better. Like imagine if you, so it's you, but you're going to buy your next house or your first house, whatever, like that. Then the agent, try to set an appointment with them. So figure out their motivation, and then we're going to use one of these to set an appointment with them. Okay. We'll do this for like 3 or 4 minutes, real quick. Okay, who's the couple?
Wait, what?
Their spouses. I decided it.
Do I know who I'm talking to already? Sure.
You make it up.
I'm newer.
Great. Tell me a little bit about your family.
I know we're trying to work on moving.
Yeah.
When we work on getting it done.
Yeah, we're gonna look at
What area?
Oh, fantastic. Okay. So you'll be finding, but they're not in space. Tell me about your son.
Not huge, stage 3, 4 bedroom.
I'm on the market every day. I'm looking through listings. I put in a good idea. I'm just pulling over what to do for, and I want to prepare a listing of that can like this. My next step is to spend a minute and meet together. I can do it over today or tomorrow.
I could sit down later this week. Probably next week.
Okay, next week is that's fine. Let's get that specific date.
Look at you.
Yeah.
And then I wanted to.
What's that?
Later than I wanted.
Later than you want.
But I'll take it.
So are these inbound, these are just cold?
I mean, whatever.
Sure.
Yeah, I don't care. Where do you get your leads from?
Green Pearls, it's been some, hey, Marcelino and so-and-so.
Yeah.
You can call. And stuff, so. I think that's where we're trying to get to, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Okay, I was like, oh my gosh, what is her name again? Yeah. Well, hey, ring. Hey, Julie.
Wait, you're going ahead. I'm gonna make you guys do it again.
What's that? Well, she was the buyer now.
I know. I'm gonna make you switch in a minute.
Oh.
Okay, everyone, wrap it up. You set an appointment? Oh. What is he doing? I'm worried about the back of the class. Okay, how was it? Give me some ahas from this. Julia set the appointment really quickly. Is that bad? Because it sounds like, who was the buyer's agent? Alex? Okay, and you didn't get to setting the appointment yet. Too many questions. Is that bad? Probably. Yeah.
Helping him help me what I want, no, but if you ask me, hey, what color underwear you wearing, what size shoes, but none of that has anything to do with anything.
Yeah. You're probably not gonna want to have an appointment if he's like, what kind of shoes are you wearing right now?
Setting the appointment too quickly, me personally, I wouldn't think that that's any potential drawback.
Yeah.
Still ask the same pertinent question.
Exactly. You get to ask them right now, or you can ask them in the appointment. So it doesn't matter. It's however you fill it out. If they are hesitant to meet for whatever reason, sometimes just having more information solves that. Sometimes it doesn't. You guys going to say something here? Thought I saw a hand.
I'm not sure, when you go on appointments, before you go on the appointments, they'll say like, our instance, hey, it was next Tuesday. So the morning of or the day before, you call them to confirm the appointment.
Yeah.
Stuff that you go through to make sure that they're ready.
Potentially. It depends on what the lead source is and what they're like. Sphere of influence and referrals, I'm a lot looser because I'm building the relationship. So worst case scenario, if I sit down in a buyer's appointment with like a friend or a referral from a friend and I spend 30 minutes and we become better friends and they ultimately can't buy the house, I'm still okay with that. If I get an internet lead and I follow up with them a whole bunch, then I set the appointment and I waste my time on that appointment and I don't become friends with them, like I just wasted all of that time. I'm not going to get a deal. I'm not going to get a referral. I'm not going to be friends with them. Like there's no positives in that. So the more I know them, the more lax I am about what I need and want before the appointment. The less I am a little more stringent on what I ask of them. I will not meet with a internet lead without them getting pre-approved first. I will meet with one of my friends and help them go through the pre-approval process. And that's kind of the big difference. Bill.
Questions, kind of throw them out. One at set the appointment, and then kind of drill down on their needs so that they can bring them.
Yep.
What are you looking for? What price you looking for? Okay. Now we have kind of 3 points you can come to get an idea of what they're looking for. You say, hey, this style, this style. Like this weekend, I showed some homes.
Mhm.
And there were very different homes. One was new construction, very contemporary. One was 20 years old, kind of that dark green wood, and just completely opposite. And I almost felt like you know your client. Is this what they're looking for, or is that what they're looking for? Do they like that type of style, or do they like this type of style? And then you're respecting your time and their time as well. You're kind of putting them in those homes to look at. So if you had kind of an option for them within some of the loose guidelines that they're saying at your appointment, you'd say, and kind of also shows, hey, I'm making the effort before you didn't really sign anything with me. Then you kind of have say, okay, we can look for these. Here's my agreement. Go ahead and sign that. We'll get rolling. We'll get out and start looking at some homes like that.
You want to come teach? Because that's basically what we're doing today. That's like a breakdown of it. Yeah, I think that that's great. Like the more that you can prepare before each step, the easier that step will be. The problem is when you're preparing, it's like, what are you preparing for? If you had like Alex level questions where you know what shoes they're wearing or whatever he was asking you to really get to know you, then it's a lot easier to prepare because he can probably start to find some listings, narrow it down, use some of this information. If it was more like Julia, where she said it quickly, she showed the value and the value in the appointment, then she might have less knowledge. So like she might show up with a whole bunch of houses and then we look at them, we're like, I hate every one of those houses. But she can ask those questions at the appointment and figure that out. So if you have the information, like let's use that to our benefit because it will speed everything up. If you do not have that, you're going to gather that and kind of be on the fly, which is why and I'll show you in a minute, like I like to know the MLS a little bit better because I literally do a search during my buyer consultation on the MLS. So yeah, that's part of my appointment. Yeah. And everyone's different on that, but that's my approach. So I'll show you. Okay. Did you guys set an appointment? Did you get an appointment? Of course he did. Okay, we're gonna do this one more time. But whoever wasn't the buyer's agent, whoever was the buyer's agent, now you're gonna have an objection. So it's harder because you went first. You're going to have an objection about why you should even meet. Okay. And the buyer or the buyer's agent has to overcome that objection. Okay. So if you're the buyer's agent, wait, you guys rock, paper, scissors for who's the buyer's agent? Because no, D'Angelo, you went, right? Weren't you the buyer's agent? Okay, you're the buyer now, but one of them has to be Oh, you did too? Okay. Who hasn't been the buyer's agent? Okay, close your eyes then if you're the buyer's agent. Okay. Oh my goodness. Don't look at what I'm writing unless you're a buyer. Okay. Does this make sense? This is your objection. Bill's over there cheating. Okay, that's your objection. Same rules apply. Find the motivation, then set the appointment. If you feel like your objection has been handled, then yes, you can set the appointment. If not, push back on them. Okay, go.
So, you know, stuff online. Yeah. I'm looking at. So what is it that is making you want a virtual now?
Well, I've been a renter forever, and my parents are always on thinking about, now that I graduated college, something like, surrounded on me about my own house. And there's don't look at my mirror about and that's figured I would get them off my back.
So you're doing that for a while, your parents are, yeah. The market rate. So, what's the house right now? So, honestly, now, though, you're saying.
Ready, probably need something small, that was too big at this point, but I start there. I'm pretty open, but I probably want to do this 20 years from it.
20 years. That's a big thing, that's a big hurdle. So we can narrow it down maybe.
I really like the Orem area.
You like the more American? So are you driving all the time? Oh, good, yeah, you do good.
So easy when you know the objection. So easy. It's like the objection was written on the board or something for you, Bill. Yeah.
Can't show you home.
I know a lot of agents,
For a week,
you like
take
pretty reliable, what's
Rufus,
online,
find somebody else. I might even refer you to somebody else.
but.
So you said you know a lot of agents, are you interviewing?
Say like legally, I'm not allowed to. That's like, there's nothing.
And so when you're interviewing your agent, what is the criteria?
We can drive by each other.
Determine which agent.
That's a good question. We should just look at the website and depending on.
All right, we're gonna shut you two down. I like where this is going though. Sounded great. Okay, give me some ahas, give me some thoughts here. Bill felt like it was so easy because he read the objection beforehand. Yeah. Oh, let me just show you the objection. It's basically I don't see the value in an agent, right? Or why we would meet. So I just want to see homes. Why do we need to meet? Is this real? I imagine a lot of people are like, wait, why do you want to meet with me? You want me to come to your house? I want to go to or come to your office. I want to go see houses. Like that doesn't make sense to me. So how do you overcome this? Value, right? Just show the value.
Didn't pin down like a specific area that he was looking at, just that this area will give him kind of narrow down the search on that.
Love that. Yeah. Yeah, when they start very vague, like, oh, I live in Lehigh or I live in Santaquin. It's like, wait, those are all over the place. Let's sit down and make a better game plan for you. I like that. Bill was saying, he just said legally I can't show you houses unless we get a signed agreement, and to sign an agreement, I'm going to meet with you. Yep, every single agent. Shouldn't tell you this. You can get a signed agreement at the doorstep. I have done this where I literally like hood of my car, sign here. They sign, we walk in. I have done that before. It was my cousin, so I felt like it was better. We had like a Zoom-ish type meeting, and then we went to houses. So, what if you skip the buyer's presentation or consultation? What do you think that looks like? Like, same objection. Why do we even really need to meet? If I can sign an agreement when we show up to the first house, why should we meet? So, what do you think? Build the relationship? Yep.
Also finding out what they need. Your time's valuable, mine's valuable. I don't want to waste your time. I don't want to waste my time. So let's really kind of pin down what we're looking for.
Yeah.
And then you also kind of get a, I get a tone of how this is vibing, how things are going. So
Yep.
that's probably.
Yeah. I have two more thoughts to add to that. One is one that I have never had, but I imagine that a lot of people have is, am I going to meet with a weirdo? Who is this person? If you meet here in the office or even at like a Starbucks or something, that is a very good place to meet weirdos and be like, you're not going to be a person I go and show houses to. So let's not do this. The other one is you then become the professional, right? A lot of new agents tend to get like bossed around by some of the clients that feel like they know more, especially if they know that you are new. So if you come in and you're almost setting that firm, like, no, we need to meet, like you now have like taken control of the situation. Whether they have gone through this hundreds of times or this is their first time, you are establishing like, we are going to follow my process, and my process is meeting. If you do not want to meet with me, like we're not going to work together. And it's a legal thing. We need to do that. It's a safety thing. There has been some agents that have met with people in the office and then afterwards been like, I don't think I want to work with that person. They seem like a creep. Like, then don't go see houses with them, because that would be the worst. So, like, logically, it's just a safety and legal issue. We need to meet first. Value wise, you should meet first. You can build a game plan. You can, like, if you could see one fewer house by meeting in the office, like that is 30 to 45 minutes that you just saved someone. How long are you going to meet in the office? Probably 30 to 45 minutes. So even if you can just do one house fewer because you met, like it's a wash. If you can do 3 houses show less, like it's just way better. So let's talk about when people have objections for an appointment, how to overcome that. So their little 5-step idea here: ask questions, empathize, identify the real issues, offer a solution, urge an agreement. I want to emphasize something. This is for objections. The other thing that exists is what is called a smoke screen. A smoke screen is different than an objection because it is not real. When a salesman knocks on my door and my wife answers, her smoke screen is, oh, that's what my husband would decide on. So I can't be sold today because my husband's actually not here to listen to you talk about your Kirby vacuum or whatever. In real life, she is the one that would decide if she wanted a new vacuum or not me. I have zero to do with that, except for I would say, no, don't do it. And then she would do it anyway, which is a real life story that happened. Guy knocks, she's like, oh no, my husband makes these decisions. And then he just kept going. He didn't even stop. That's how you overcome a smoke screen, is you just keep walking right through that smoke. Like, oh, my husband makes those decisions. Oh yeah, I totally get that. What if I were to come in and just clean a spot on your carpet to show you how well this works? She was like, okay. And now we have a Kirby vacuum that I hate. So if it is a smoke screen, just keep going. If the smoke screen is real, like if I were a controlling husband that forced my wife to get everything approved by me before she bought a vacuum, and it became a real objection, what would happen? She would bring it up again. Well, thanks for cleaning the spot on my carpet. I really love this. I'll need to talk to my husband. Like that would be a real conversation she would have with me, because then it would be an objection. But this is where you ask the questions, you empathize, you identify the real issues, you offer a solution, and you urge an agreement. One of my favorite frameworks for this is called feel, felt, found. So what it is it's not you saying all of these things, it's you saying it on behalf of someone else. Like, let's see, what's a good objection? What's a buyer objection? What's someone going to say? Why they wouldn't meet with you? Bad credit. Yeah, let's go bad credit. So, this might be hard for you if you're new, but feel, felt, found. So, oh, I totally understand how you feel. I've worked with a lot of people in your situation. Feel, right? You're empathizing with them. Felt. This is where you give an example of someone else. These buyers that I've worked with in the past have felt the same way. Like they don't have good enough credit or they can't overcome this. What they found, last I've found, is that talking to a lender, some of them actually qualified and others just built plans to be able to qualify very quickly. And so what I can do is get you in touch with a lender to get going, right? Feel, felt, found. Totally get how you feel. Others have felt that way. What they found is. That's the framework for feel, felt, found. If you do something like this, it kind of takes the fight out of it with you and them, right? If you're like, oh, you might have good enough credit. And they're like, no, I don't. It's like, no, like I'm trying to tell you, you might, but like you're just like contentious now. So it like shifts all of that away. They can't be like, oh, because someone else has had this. And then you're moving forward with the next step. Let's get you to talk to a lender. If you really actually have bad credit, we can make a plan. If you have good enough credit, we can go buy houses. If they have another objection after that, what happens? The next one comes up. Boom, boom. And you just keep knocking them down. You can even use feel, felt, found over and over and over again. It works really well. One more thing to say on this. And it must have not been important because it's gone. Left my mind already. Questions or ahas? Yes.
Questions, okay. First of all, so the objections. This young lady, she's, we talked about, she wants to buy a house, but doesn't want to buy a house.
Yeah.
Says, well, I have bad credit. I don't want to be house paying. Interest rates are too high. But then there's no motivation. I mean, like, I can't figure out how to get her motivated to go talk to a lender to see even what the possibilities are. So my feel is, she wants to, but doesn't want, you know.
Yep.
Wants to in theory, but actually have to go through the work is it's not.
So if motivation is the thing that you run into, there's this thing, this is gonna light up. It's called the 4 quadrants. There's probably a cooler name for it, but that's at least what I call it. So you kind of walk them through this concept. By the way, this works for all things motivation. If your kids are like not motivated by something, this would work with your kids. So it's positive present, negative future, positive future. It works the very best with questions, right? Sometimes you can just infer some of these things like positive present and negative present, like, oh, it's probably nice not owning a house because something breaks, you don't have any issues, right? You don't have to worry. You don't have to jump through all the hoops of qualifying. You don't have to go looking. Like, there's some good in not owning a house right now, just generally, right? What's the bad of not owning a house right now? Probably just like the opposite of all the goods, but in a positive light. Like, you can't do anything you want to in your house. Like, you're throwing money away every single rent payment, like all of these things. Where the power becomes in this negative future, right? What happens if you don't buy a house? Like, fast forward 5 years from now and you're still renting. What does that look like for your net worth, for your Yeah, you spent 100. Yeah. Yeah. Maybe that's a great question. How much do you think you will spend for rent in the next 5 years? What if a portion of that went to a savings account instead? Like, what about the unpredictability? Like, if your landlord raises rents every single year to keep up with like rental inflation, what's that going to do for your income? Are you ever going to get out of the rat race? Are you ever going to do that? You really like, what does that look like for your family? Who does that affect? Like, renters tend to move more frequently than homeowners. What if you move all the time? Like, your kids won't be able to have the friends and that house that they are marking their heights on and all of these things. What does that look like in the future? And so you go super negative. You kind of dwell here in the negative for as long as they're okay, but you ultimately have to take them to the positive future. So what if you did buy a house today? What would things look like 3, 5, 10, 20 years from now? And then you can start to dream almost like, oh, instead of throwing away $120,000, part of that came back to you because you paid down your principal. You can do anything you want to that house. You can sell that house and use that as a down payment to go to get a bigger, nicer house with maybe even the same type of payment. So it's this flow. What's good now? What's bad now? What would be bad in the future? Hang out there for as long as you can, and then move to this. What's good in the future? Yep. Yeah. Yeah. So if you're like, their ultimate objection is just they have zero motivation. They want to, they should, they know all of the things, but they're just not motivated to do it, then this is awesome. By the way, I will use this in coaching all the time. I literally taught an agent this one time, and then we were talking about open houses, and he's like, yeah, I know that I should do them, but I just don't. I'm like, sounds like you're lacking some motivation. He's like, yeah. And so we went through this, like, legit 2 minutes after we talked about how it works. And I was like, how do you feel now that we went through all this? And he's like, I actually feel great and like motivated to go do it and all this stuff. I was like, I walked you through what we just talked about, sucker. So it works. Very simple, quick way to go through that. Does that help answer your question? Now, another way, a lot of the times we get in this idea of just like go through everything and then hit objections at the end. I am a fan of doing what I would call or like soft closes. I don't know if that's what the book means by soft closes, but that's how I use them. So like a great example, my very favorite line is when I'm in a listing presentation, I show all of the marketing and I say, does that sound like a plan that would sell your house? They say yes. I know I'm probably good. And I ask a second question. Have you heard anything else that will sell your house that I did not mention? And if they say nope, then I have a green light. I am completely done with marketing. I know when I get to the end of the listing presentation, I will not get an objection about marketing. I'll even go over like my commission, what I do, everything, my value that I add. And I'll say, besides price, is there anything that would stop you listing from me today? And then they say, no, I'm good. So then I say, great, if we can agree on the right price and plan to list your home, you ready to move forward? And they'll say, yes. And then I say, great, let's talk about the comps. And then if they, at the very end, they're like, well, I don't know. Then it's like, we're just talking about price. We're not talking about my value. We're not talking about my fees. We're not talking about marketing. We've moved it all the way down. So you can do this with every little step of it, right? If you throw everything at them at once and they have an objection, you're going to be like, which do you have the problem with? But if you're like, hey, before you put me to work, do you have any questions or does everything that we talk about sound good? Great, we're good with everything. So now it's just me and my fees and things like that. Give me an aha on anything we've talked about so far. Yeah. Bring the pain and then bring them to a positive place. If you leave them in the pain, then you're just a jerk. Any other ahas? There's so many of these, by the way, as you're looking for objection handlers. There's a lot of good stuff. Like go to YouTube, go to ChatGPT, find what people are doing to overcome objections. Most times it's you have not communicated your value well enough. So if you haven't shown your value, you're going to be backtracking. That's all Phil Felt found is they have some objection that you didn't talk about, and then you show your value that they can go try to overcome their objection. It's all about showing value. All right, let's prepare for the buyer consultation. Okay, so Julia set an appointment for Tuesday, right? What's today? Monday. So if you had an appointment for tomorrow, what would you do before that day? Like real question, like this is a real appointment. What don't you have ready for tomorrow? What time's our appointment? 2:00. What do you need to do before tomorrow at 2 to feel ready for that appointment? Not every appointment, this one that's tomorrow. Yep. Yep. So we could go through a lot of things. Should they meet with a lender before they meet with you? They probably should. If they don't, is that a bad thing? No, you're wasting your time. For your first appointment, I don't care because if you go on an appointment and then figure out that they're not qualified, you just got to practice an appointment that doesn't matter. So the worst case scenario, you got practice. Ideally, you are not practicing on real people. Everyone in this room probably would like to get better at this buyer presentation part. So you can meet with someone and actually have a fake buyer presentation. I think that is very smart and you should do it. So confirm your appointment date and time. If you set it for tomorrow or later today, I would not do this. Maybe I would be assumptive in it if it's tomorrow at like 2. Maybe in the morning you can say, hey, so excited to see you at 2. Make sure you come by. Or like, I don't know, let them know you're going to get him a candy bar or a swig. I actually know someone that's what his thing was. He's like, oh, before we meet, what's your favorite drink at Swig? And he would buy that for them. And then he would show up to all of their showings with that same drink. Thought it was an interesting little thing. His reasoning, he's a salesman. He is a pure salesman, this guy that does this. He says he is bringing them a gift. So they feel obligated to sign his agreement because he brought them something. That was the whole thing. He didn't care about anything past that. Wasn't customer experience or making him have a good time. It was he brought them something, so they felt obligated to work with him. Thought that was interesting. Confirm the appointment location. I would do this every single time, right? Send the address by text, even if you told them exactly where it is. Remind them everyone that will be involved in it is there. This decision makers, you can tell them anyone can come see houses with us. My cousin that just closed, every time I showed her houses, except for one time, her mom was there. Not that her mom had anything to do with it, but she's just very involved in the process. She wanted to know what her daughter was buying and things like that. And so I let them know, like, hey, if your mom wants to come, I'm fine with that. And she was there for most of the time. Do not have dads go to inspections. That's where things get ruined because dads are trying to like show your value. The one thing is I always try to talk to parents on like the side and let them know like, hey, this is their house. This is not your house. Because typically parents that have kids buying houses, what do the parents' houses look like? Way better than what the kids are about to buy, typically. So when they live in $1 million home and the kids are buying a $300,000 starter home, they are not on the same level, then the parents do not see that. They get worried about everything because they would go buy $1 million plus home and the kids are buying their very first home. Not the same. So try to like bring the parents aside and be like, I'm so happy that you're involved in the process and you're helping. Remember, let them look from their lens because you're going to look from yours. Right? Little things like that. Yeah. Yeah, we can make this house way better if you want to co-sign and put some money down. Take out a HELOC. So in my mind, decision makers, this is who is ever going to be on the loan and has to make a decision. Like if they're co-signing with their dad, dad doesn't need to be there for everything as long as dad is okay that the kids are making the right decisions. I'm fine with that. So everyone else, like I wouldn't meet with the husband and not the wife. That doesn't make sense because then you're going to have to meet with the wife, with the husband, and you're going to go through the same things. I have like the same jokes and things that I say at all of the stuff, and it gets ruined if I have to do it twice in a row. Complete your buyer guide. We'll talk about this in a second. Prepare the meeting space. So if you're going to meet here, we have conference rooms. Just tell Amanda at the front desk, hey, can I schedule a conference room? I think you can scan the QR code there and get it ready. I like to go beforehand, make sure, because I pull up the MLS. So I'm logged into my MLS. I'm good to go. I will either bring waters in or something. Like if I know that they're bringing their kids, I'll try to bring like an iPad for like turn on Bluey or something like that. So something like that. And then review the lead sheet. This is everything you found out when you were talking to them. What is their motivation? I would think through that. Motivation, motivation, motivation. Let's talk about value proposition. Nope. What is this? Top 10 service areas. Oh, buyer life cycle. We looked at it from our lens. This is how you kind of go through it with the client, right? Number one, needs analysis. Should we meet? Should we not? Then you're going to meet with the lender. Then we're going to look at certain neighborhoods that you want to meet in. We are going to do that search. And then finally, we'll make an offer. When we negotiate an offer, or when we make the offer, we're going to negotiate it, coordinate all of our people, prep the close, and then I'm going to be there when we're done. So this is how the buyers see it. Now you could take any one of these and figure out how are you going to do this better than anyone else, right? Am I going to show up with a swig because I'm a good person or because I'm an awesome salesman? And so that's what we're going to do in this. Like pre-qualification, am I going to have my lender come into this first time meeting to say hi? You get to design out your process and where you want to go to it. I know an agent that once they accept an offer, she goes to their house with balloons and has like a little dance party on the porch. Like, congratulations, you got an under contract. You're accepted. And she makes it a big deal, hands them balloons, confetti all over the place, kind of an idea. Like, she makes it fun and exciting to close. When I close, I make my buyers, I take a picture of them and I make them jump because I think it's so funny. Because if you take like 10 pictures of someone when they're jumping, they're like, they do these funny faces and poses all the way. And then I send all of them on how goofy they look. We are very different, but I get a joke with them. So let's talk about the buyer's guide. We have some templates for this, but I want to go through it because there's two types of buyer's guides in my mind. There's one that keeps you as the agent on track with what you want to talk about. And there's a second one that is like a leave behind that you won't even use, but you're like, oh, hey, here's a bunch of stuff that we talked about that might be helpful to you. I'm kind of in between both of these as a spectrum. So if you were going to build a buyer's guide today, I would use a template. I think they even have like Command has some of these templates, by the way. So you can pull that up. I know Ritz has some awesome templates. So if you even just put a question in the productivity thing, like, hey, where are these templates? He can shoot a little message out there. They're on kwwestfield.com. You log in, you get a black screen, you go message Amanda at the front desk and say, well, let me in. And then they will let you in. And then there's templates there. Anyway, these are a bunch of different things that you could put in here. This is too much for me. Who's the people that like numbers and data information, things like that? The analytical people? Who's like the, I just want to talk and be your friend? Who's the, like, I don't care about any of it. Let's just go get the results. So there's a bunch of different types of people. I like to have a little bit for each kind of personality is how I think of it. So this little welcome letter, this that people like, they're the like friendly type people. They like to get this little welcome letter. They're gonna be like, oh, that's so nice that they did this. This is best if customized. I would have a template that's your default and then add in your extra little thing. Like me helping my cousin buy, I could have wrote something like, I'm so excited to see my younger cousin grow up and finally buy her house. And like that would be very personal to her and awesome, but it would be like 90% the same letter to everyone. Everyone wants to know about the timeline. So I would do this for sure, for sure. What's the timeline look like? There is an agent, Taylor Frampton is his name. He used to be in our office. He's moved to St. George and is the team leader there. His whole buyer presentation was just the timeline of buying. He had a little 3-fold flyer that had like a little road and the steps and stages of buying a home. And that covered the rest of it for him. Home search process, how to access the app, intro, value proposition, bio. That's probably important. Reasons to buy a home. If they're in meeting with you, I think they know why. So that one seems less important to me. Local market analysis, that will depend a lot on what they are buying. Condo is different than a home. That's different than a townhome. It's different than a luxury house. Financial worksheet, credit check, interest rate chart. I let the lender do all of those. To be honest, I have never put any of these or in this items. I have never put any of those in a buyer packet at all. Information on Keller Mortgage or Keller Covered. I put my favorite lender and favorite insurance person here. Mistakes to avoid, buyer questionnaire. My idea for this is that it's a leave behind for them. It is not for me. So like the buyer questionnaire, I don't care about that because I'm going to ask them all the questions and I have a separate piece of paper that I fill out. But you might want to have a very exact way. Let's see if they have. So this is kind of an idea of the template that you can grab. Your needs come first. So you should have some sort of questionnaire that you go through. In an ideal world, you will go through the same set of questions every single time. Legally, that is a great idea. In practice, it doesn't work out as well. So I like to know a few things, like I want to know where you're buying, what it wants to look like, and why with that. It's like, who'll be living in this home? What are the non-negotiables? That's probably a great question to have. Yeah, I would have them rank it after that. Beyond your top 5, what else do you really need? Do you have any preference for the year built? Do you have any conditions? Blah, 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 blah. Ooh, when people visit your home, what should they say about it? Or what would it say about you? Things like that are awesome. Let me show you how I do this, if the keyboard works. Oh no. Oh no. Oh good, the keyboard's working. So when I go to a when I go to a buyer's presentation, I don't know my password. I always pull up the MLS. Now I teach them and tell them that they, wait, I'm trying to do 2 things at once. Utah real estate. I have the worst passwords because I let computers make them for me. So I always tell clients that they should look at homes on my KW app. And I tell them that that is the best place to find homes because it is literally a feed from the MLS and basically every MLS. So if they happen to be buying something down in like Cedar City where a St. George agent is listed it and they have a different MLS down there, the KW app will find it where the MLS that we are using may not. So I always tell them that's the best app to use. Plus, then we have some fun features like if they favorite something, you can just text me and say, hey, let's go check out my favorites. And I can pull that up and see what houses are their favorites because I can see and command all of that. Now, when I go to a buyer's presentation, I actually pull up a full search. I clear out all of the information and I start building out a search for them. So I'll ask them, hey, what did your lender pre-approve you to? So let's say 500. So I say, okay, we're going to actually go a little higher than that. Just in case one of these, we can go lower or lowball them a little bit. Now we're probably not going to want to go too low. So I don't know. And I just start making it up. Now I'm always mindful of how many matches I have over here on the side. I'm trying to narrow that down. So then I'll ask them things like, okay, if you were to move, where would you live? And I'll go draw a little map with this polygon tool. Say, you want to live in this area. Great. Hide the map, keep going. This is where you'd want to be very familiar with the MLS. So you can use it to answer more questions. Do you want an ADU? Do you want solar? Does year built matter to you? Do you want a newer house or does it not matter? How big? Do you need a garage? How about just a carport? What about a basement? Do you want to have a basement? And I'll start doing this like as any daylight, full, partial, walkout, entrance. Boom. So now I have 37 and I'll just go through. Then when we narrow it down to whatever they want, I'll click view results. And then I really like this little grid view on the MLS. This is very helpful to me as a person, but this is very helpful as you're like getting an idea. Like they might look at this and be like, oh, you know what? We didn't want a townhome. And we are like, okay, you're probably going to get homes that look like this in this price range. Are you okay with that? And then start whittling it down from there. I will also start clicking on homes and be like, tell me what you think of this one. What about this kitchen? If this was your kitchen, would you be okay with that? Yeah, I'm with you, but they're different. I'm not going to project my feelings onto them. That's very important. Oh yeah, Bill, this is not your house. Yeah. No. Yep.
Property on that, now is this your page within KW or is it the KW?
Yep. So what I'll do is I'll go to, if you go to your command app on your phone and you click your face, you can share your KW app. And I do that. And I say, hey, this will make you a login on kw.com as well as the app here. The alternative is I will send them a link to my website. I named mine utah.kw.com, but most of you probably put your name, which makes more sense. I don't get leads because it's Utah. I thought I was smart and I haven't gotten any leads from it. Anyway, so I say, go to my website and you can sign up and then they can create a saved search. They can look for homes. Honestly, you could do this search on kw.com. And a lot of people will do that. They'll be like, hey, let's create you an account on my website and do a search for you. So then you'd go to your website, you'd have them create an account on whatever computer you're on up there. And then you'd start pulling up homes very similar to like what I'm doing here. Now, when you are completely done with this portion of it, whether you did it on the KW website or the MLS, you are going to leave and you're going to change the criteria. For example, we put 515 to 400 for a price. Maybe I'm going to go 390 and maybe, I don't know, 525. We're going to go a little bit bigger. This was their map. We would zoom out and add in just a little bit more. So however I get rid of that. What we're doing is we want it to be bigger because maybe someone is going to list a house down here that's exactly what they want, where they were looking in this area. Would you move 5 minutes further south for exactly what you want? Unless there is a reason where they have to live in that specific area, I'm going to go broader than what they want because I want to find houses that they're not looking at. Now, if this is the house that I think that they want, I will send this to them and say, hey, I know this is out of the area that you wanted, but I thought it was perfect besides that. Or thought it was a great option worth looking at if you're okay with the location, and start sending it to them. The reason I do this is I want to consistently send people houses. Most of your buyers will probably find the house that they are going to buy, but if you are sending them houses, they will think that you are doing something and adding value to you. If you don't send them houses, then when you're not showing them houses, they forget why you're valuable. Because right now, that's the most important to them. So your whole appointment here really has 4, did I just think of 4 things that you need to do? Number 1, you need to figure out their motivation and why they are buying or selling. You are going to use that often, right? That is the positive future in your mind. So you can reference back to why they are buying. You need to get their criteria and get all of that information about them that you're doing. Now I only have 3. What was the 4th one? The 3rd one is to get the agreement signed. That is very important. If you don't have an agreement signed, you cannot do it. Now, in the buyer presentation, I always bring a paper copy of the agreement and I have it pre-filled out. I don't have it handwritten pre-filled out. I have it typed in pre-filled out. The reason being is if I change anything on it, I want it to look painful. For example, what would you change on a buyer agreement? Your commission. So if I always charge 3% and someone's like, oh, could you do 2.5? I like look down at the paper and be like, dang it, it says 3. Already they're feeling more uncomfortable because I have written out 3. Most people don't question it though.
Kind of reflecting on.
Yes.
So. Wouldn't the easiest response to that be, well, you can always work with this, I like the 3% now, because if we can get the seller, cover my commission, that's no money in the pocket. Or then when I can have a separate conversation and work with this to bring it down. That again shows your willingness to work and your importance on my relationship.
Yes. Yep. Yeah.
That how you feel?
Yep. Yeah. And I'll tell people, and we'll talk about how we present this here in a second, but I always tell people like, I'm a 3% agent. And if they're like, oh, will you do less? I'm like, actually, maybe. Here's what it is I'm going to work real hard for you. And it is going to be worth 3%. Now, I am going to ask that of the seller and the seller's agent. If they're like, ooh, we can only get you 2.5, I would be okay with that because that's me not being able to negotiate my worth with them. So if it does get too low and then the only way to make the deal happen is for them to go very low, then I might ask you to come up with some money. Most people would rather increase the purchase price and increase the commission the same. And so we can figure that all out. But most times the seller is already willing to pay me enough if I'm willing to ask for enough. So are you okay if I get what I'm worth? That was like that. What did they call that? Like a negative positive? Are you okay if I earn the money that I'm worth? Yeah, I guess, yeah. 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 Yeah, and, I feel like when you get to like the $1 million, it's pretty common to do 2.5. Some people are caught in the number and some people are caught in the percentage. And it's real funny to see the difference because some people are like, I wouldn't pay over $30,000 to an agent. That's so much money. And others are like, I wouldn't pay more than 2.5% to an agent because that's so much money. But those might be the same amount of money. So some sellers are there, but that is on the listing agent to present your value. And hopefully they have done that to make your job easier. Otherwise, it's going to make their job harder because you're going to have to get paid somehow. And so if your buyers can't pay you cash out of pocket at closing, then you need to figure out how do the sellers pay you. And it's going to be a lot of negotiating back and forth. So if the listing agent can be like buyer's agents are valuable, then you're going to be better off. Okay, conducting the buyer consultation, we kind of were jumping into this. I am knowledgeable and caring and the best agent for these clients. They will appreciate my expertise and preparation and choose me to represent them as they buy a home. I am a huge believer in affirmations and like visualizing all of that. I think all of it's real. I would 100% tell yourself something like this so that you feel like you are going to do the best for them and that you are worth it. So this would be, if you don't know what to say to yourself beforehand, this would be a great thing to say. Internally, out loud, I don't care. Probably don't let other people hear you because they'll be like, what are you saying? Everyone in this room knows that it's normal. Some agent that's never done this class would be like, what? Have this kind of a mentality. You are valuable and you will earn your money for sure. There are very few times where I come out at the end of a transaction thinking like, I just made a killing, Like I barely put in any work and I got a ton of money. Usually it matches. Usually I'm like, man, they should have paid me more for this, which is why I don't often discount my commission because I feel like I work harder for those people for less money. So you are valuable. Okay, welcome the buyer. How do you do this? Don't look like that guy. Don't look like that girl either, I guess. Neither of them look happy. Welcome them in. We have water bottles. The office buys these little teeny water bottles. If you haven't seen, they're overbought. Yep, they're right there. Yep. The office buys these. So you can offer your clients water. We also have that little soda machine that's on this side of the coffee machine's broken. Real advantage, if you go through their doors, they have a coffee machine. So if your buyer's like, oh, I'd love some coffee, boom, pop in a Real Advantage, go steal some of their coffee. Yeah, so there's soda and waters, and you can get coffee there. Ask them that. The front desk usually asks them, by the way, do you want a water or anything? So sometimes they might have it. I always be like, oh, you got everything? You're good? Boom, great. While I'm welcoming them, I tell them the point of our today is, and I'll lay out the game plan. I'll say, I want to get to know you and what kind of house you want. I want you to get out any of your questions. So we'll go over the process, things like that. We are going to actually look at houses on the MLS, like we were just showing you, to find what homes that we should go look at next. And then we'll sign an agreement saying that we're going to work together. Sound good? Great, let's go. I frame it that way because then when we get to the agreement, it is not a surprise. I do not want that to be a surprise. So we're gonna, some people, like I said, will have questions on all of these things. I like to do it on the MLS. So I pull up a search, where would you live? How many beds? How many baths? How much square footage? Does it matter to you, or do you just want something that feels spacious? Great. And I start building a search. I start pulling up homes. Do you like this or not? Bill didn't like the kitchen, so we know that kitchen is out. I would take notes of anything that doesn't make sense that you can't like save in a search. Bill didn't like the kitchen because, and then write down why. So sometimes it's just a blank piece of paper that I have. Other people might like this. So if this is more you, like real questions, like in bathrooms, how many bathrooms do you want? What else? What are your needs for each bathroom? I don't know. Seems weird questions, but you can have like a whole page for needs analysis. There's needs, there's wants. We're going to start with the needs. We're going to move to the wants. Canva, yeah, you could. I think Command has one as well. That's like this one that's pre-built for you. Yeah. No. In Command, there's a Canva knockoff that's almost as good. So like if you needed to remove a background of a photo, for example, the one in Command will help you do that for free. And then I just upload that to Canva because I like how Canva's interface works better. They spent more time on the user experience. So, okay, I don't know if you guys have heard about this. Have you heard about a love letter? This is something that was very popular where you get your buyers to write a little letter and you put their picture and you would send that with offers. I'm not against this. It is a huge liability though, but more of the liability goes to the seller's agent than you. So that's why I don't really care if you do it or not. Let's say that you have this cute little family buying the starter home, 2 kids and a dog, and you send in this love letter about how awesome this family is and how excited they are to move in the neighborhood. And they offer, let's just call it 500,000 list price, boom. Then you have an investor planning to rent this place out and offers 515. And the sellers see your nice little love letter and think, I want my neighbors to have this great little family to move in and not renters that are just going to trash the place. The seller would get in trouble for that, and the seller's agent would as well, because it doesn't matter if it's a family or if it's an investor, you need to get them the most amount of money, right? Protected classes, all of that stuff. We don't want to do that. So I do not collect a love letter. Now, when I'm sending an offer in, you better guarantee I'm going to talk up whoever I have and why they are the best, right? Like when my cousin just bought, the lady had lived in that same house for 50 years. She built it. And so I was like, they're so excited to take over your home and they can tell that you've taken such good care of it. They're so excited for the neighborhood and to just grow their little family and blah, 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 blah. So I did my own little love letter. Now, did the agent present that to the seller? I have no idea. He should not, because that is not a good thing to do. Because then if someone else that's a protected class made an offer and we're just this cuter little family, like she could get in trouble. So don't do that because it's a liability. But definitely talk up your buyers. Okay, getting the signed agreement. So buyer consultation. Like I said, I get them to download the app at some point, get them to set all of that up. So I have there in there. I show them how to use it. I wanted another. Nope. They don't give me enough slides here. So get them on that. Do not leave them without telling them next steps. But before your next steps is probably get the agreement signed. So the way that I transition into this is one, I've already pre-framed it, right? We're going to end the appointment with get agreement signed. So we go through, we say, oh, here are 3 great houses that we should probably go see. Or we didn't find anything, let's keep looking and go out as soon as we see one that matches your criteria, whatever that looks like. Then I say, you're probably wondering how I get paid, right? And if they say, yes, or, oh, I hadn't thought about that, whatever their answer is, or even if they're like, oh, I know how you get paid, doesn't matter their answer. I say, here's how it works is I have this agreement that says that I am working for you and that you are my client. I put in here that I will get 3%. Now, how it will work is that will be first, I'm going to ask the seller, then the seller's agent to pay me that amount of money. If they're not okay with that, I'm going to go to the lender and see if he can include that in any of his fees or the loans or anything like that. And then last case scenario, I will come ask you for that. Now, if I ever know of a house that's going to make me ask you, I will let you know and we can try to figure that out together. Sound great? By the way, I have never had to come and had my buyers pay more money, which is a true statement. And you can say that right now too. It's true. I've never had my buyers pay more money. The sellers have always paid me, just to make them feel good. Now, like Bill and I were talking about, I always put 3% in here. If the sellers end up offering me 2%, am I okay with that? Maybe. Maybe I'm going to come to the other agent and be like, 2% is not enough for me to do this deal with you. Like, give me some of your commission. Sometimes just asking will get you money. Like I said, you can go to the lender and be like, lender, we're short. We got commission of 2%. How can we get it to 2.5? How could we get it to 3? And then even going to your buyer's last case scenario and saying, hey, they're only willing to do 2%. Would you be willing to come up with $5,000 more? Or should we raise the price 5,000 and have the sellers pay me? Whatever that looks like, you can do all of it, but it always starts with negotiation, which is just literally in the offer. You write 3% or an amount of money. Do you have to do 3%? No. No, this is probably me covering my butt if this is recorded, all of that. You do not have to do 3%. I would suggest you do 3%. If you feel like you're a 2% agent, I would do internal work to figure out what you need to do to be a 3% agent. But 3% is pretty common. Actually, 2.5%, I think, is pretty common right now for the average person. So if you sign at 3%, you can collect 3%. If you sign at 2.5%, you cannot collect more than 2.5%. So even if the seller's like, we're offering 3%, you only get 2.5% if that's what you get it signed at. So start high. It's easier to come down than up.
Agents who are saying, well, I'll do 3% gross or 2.5 off.
I used to. They all go off of gross now, the defaults to that, right? Or is it net? What did it change to? Who knows?
So something like that, I'm not doing that because my client has to pay a percentage of my commission off of.
I feel like if we had a buyer broker agreement, well, let's do it. Let's read one. So if you go to forms under the MLS, you can go URE legacy forms. There is the buyer broker agreement. Say exclusive right to sell. Exclusive buyer broker and agency agreement. So this is what I fill out. I fill this out here and then I print it as a PDF. That's what I take. Okay.
So you got the things you use all the time.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Yep. Yeah, and it's a gross acquisition price of the property is what it says in the contract. And the listing agent says something similar. 2.1. Yeah, 2.1.
What do you fill out? Just the commission, your name?
Yep, so I would fill out their name, buyer's agent, and the buyer. If I don't know that might be the only one that I'd leave blank. I fill out an end date of actually way too long. Because I am okay if they cancel on me at any time. And so I'll tell them like, this is to get me working. I'm going to put like right now, like I might do a year out right now. Dean always does his on December 31st. Starting the end of July, he goes to the next December with all of his agreements. The reason being is if he didn't help them buy or sell by December, he just knows that's when he needs to renew all of them. Let's be honest. If you don't help them buy a house in the next 3 months, are you really wanting them in an agreement with you? Like either you're not doing your job or you don't want them as buyers. So like I would suggest put this longer than you feel like you would need to, just in case. My cousin, when she bought a house, we were looking in the summer. We made an offer and then they backed out because they were worried that they didn't have enough money. And then 3 months later, they bought a house. So if I would have only signed it for 3 months, I would have been out of contract with them technically and had to do a whole nother buyer broker agreement or add an addendum to this. Yep. Yeah, you're going to keep it. So when you get this signed, you should scan it and put it into DocuSign. So in Command, you make an opportunity, and then that opportunity has a Documents tab, and you'd upload it in there. Because then Dean has access to it, Jeanette has access to it, Brittany has access to it, everyone can see it. I think I can see it. I haven't tried hard enough yet. And then if it lapses, then you try to go extend it. If you're not extending it, you just leave it. Right? You have to keep everything for 7 years or something like that. Then as you're going to do either properties within a county or specific properties, I would suggest always do counties, and I would go broader than what they're doing. You could even put any in this. So then it would be any county. That is my favorite way to do it, because then you are protected for any house in any county until that date. You technically will get paid. Now, whether that comes from the buyer or the seller is another conversation. You know, like if they like cut you out and go to a builder and do the whole contract, and then you find out like maybe the builder won't pay you, but you could go after your clients and be like, thanks for cutting me out. Now you owe me 3%. That's a very real conversation you could have. I've never had that conversation, but technically this is written in such a way that you could. Like I said, do 3%. You don't have to do anything in here because it's money and, so you could do 0 and 3% or whatever. Yeah, you'd have to write an addendum and just reference in section 2.1, the 3% will be on the net acquisition price. You'll have to let the title company know as well. Because they just default right now to the gross. Do you guys know what the difference between net and gross? You have yeah, let's say you're $500,000 house and you're 3% commission, that's 15 grand, right? Am I mathing right? 15 grand. If you have $10,000 in closing costs, then the net is actually 490 and the percentage would be off of that. Which makes more sense in my mind too, Bill. But they said gross, so I'm happy because that's more money to my pocket. Yeah, I think that's why they do it. Yeah. A protection period. So this is the time that if you show them a house, even if your agreement expires and then they make an offer on that same house, you are still protected. I just do 6 months. Yeah. Because this
Hey, did they go, I showed them the house on 2 months, did they buy it?
I've only been close to using this one time. Gosh, you guys got to hear this story. These jerks. It was a really, really good friend of mine. I always told myself when I got in real estate, I would not stop being friends with someone because of real estate. Like that's like an internal decision that I made. Like no matter what happens, I'm going to be their friend in real estate. Well, I had this friend. He's like, I want to sell my house and buy a new house. Perfect. I can help you. I went over for a listing appointment. I said, here's what we do for the marketing. Here's everything. Here's the price. Does it all sound good? He said, let me think about it. I find out that he then signed with Homey, listed at the price that I told him he should list at, and he was trying to recreate all of the marketing that I was talking about. He did a poor job on it. I was like, all right, well, that was a jerk move. Anyway, so I'm like, Homey at this time did not help buyers. So I was like, you know what? I'm going to go help him buy a home. So I was like, hey, let's go buy a house. We can meet up, make a plan, everything like that. He's like, oh, I don't really know. It's like, I think I can do it all on my own. I was like, well, you can, but you're not going to save any money, right? Builders don't give you a discount for not having an agent. And then if something goes wrong, you're going to want an agent. Plus, it's real hard to get in every single house. Like, just by default, how we have set this world up, agents are valuable. And I tried to convince him all of these things, and he didn't say anything. I found out he was going to buy a house in this neighborhood where our mutual friend lived, and it was with a builder that my team represented. So I called that builder and I said, hey, I have a buyer I'd like to register with you. And I told him it was him. And I was like, he might be coming in. I don't know. He's been really flaky on me lately. Well, he ended up going in 2 days later, writing an offer, trying to cut me out of the deal. Well, because I had called and registered him with the builder, they put me on the contract. So I was going to get paid 3%. I just needed to get him to sign a buyer broker agreement, agreeing on it. And he ended up canceling that build job because I was involved with it. I was like, what the freak is wrong with this kid? Anyway, I don't know because I've never talked to him again because he is a jerk and I don't work with jerks. So I don't know what his deal was with all of that, but I'm like, I don't need to be friends with him. We weren't even that great of friends. Like he was always kind of weird, but we had all the same mutual friends that we all liked, but he was like the outsider that would always come in. I don't know. So that was the closest I ever got to using the protection period, and I didn't even get to use it.
Some of these things, yes, there's, in my opinion, legal grounds, but as an agent where your business comes from a firm, you really want to go out there and kind of
No,
respond.
that
No, but
yeah, that's why when I get an agreement signed for 3% and the buyer or the seller is willing to pay me 2.5%, I do not go to my buyers and say, you owe me 0.5%, or we can't close on this house. Like I just move on with it because I feel like is enough for me. At 2%, I'm like, how can I go get more money? And I try to negotiate things in. 1.5, like I'm worried. At 1%, I'm like, this doesn't make sense for me to help you with all of this. Yeah. So, yeah. Besides that, there's only one other thing to fill out: dispute resolution. If you go to, if you have problems, are you going to go to mediation, or do you have the option to go to mediation? I don't think it matters what you put here. I always do shall. Let's start with mediation. Seems way better than giving you a choice. Start with mediation. Yeah. Oh, I guess you can say there are not, unless you're going to be like Bill and be like, I'm going to do it off the net or whatever. You'd add an addendum there. And then they sign, you sign. Questions? Yes.
Go through and do like the dispute resolution. You kind of know this is the standard that we want to do. Can you say that and then it saves already checked off and you save front? Or is it just save blank?
No, it will save how it's filled in. Yeah, so you could fill in like 90% of that and then you do it again. I always do that when I do a Rep C in the MLS. I'll fill it all out and then save it as like offer on Bryce Drive kind of a thing. And then it's saved, because then if I call my buyers and I'm like, hey, it's all ready to sign, I uploaded it to DocuSign. Like, ooh, you know what? Can we do $5,000 less? Then I have it saved in the MLS that I can just go in there and tweak it. And then every month or so, I'll go through and just delete a whole bunch of saved things, so I don't clog that up. Okay, what questions do you have about the buyer service cycle? Oh, yeah, we went to buyer consultation, kind of find the home, because that's the start of my find the home is in the buyer consultation. We're going to even talk about that more in future classes. Any questions? On the long end, an hour. On the short end, like 20 minutes. Okay, coming up, I was gonna do it this Thursday, but I'm gonna switch it to like 2 weeks from Thursday. We are going to do a buyer consult practice in our group coaching, I guess we're calling it, team meeting, whatever the new agent team meeting is called. Group coaching. So I have a recording from an agent that did a buyer presentation that we'll watch. And then we're going to start practicing what a buyer presentation should look like. And we'll probably do that in, like I said, like 2 weeks from Thursday. We'll do that. So if you want to come practice and see what that looks like, that's what we're going to run. So you can get good at it. And then I would suggest everyone partner up. Ideally, this is how it should go. You should build out your buyer packet that you are going to take, and then you should use that in a mock buyer presentation with someone probably in this room. You can get any other agent, someone else in this room. It's probably going to be easier to do it. And you guys might not know exactly what you don't know, but as you start to even role play, you're going to figure out real quick what you're missing and what you should add. So I would suggest go finish that buyer packet and then have a practice. And if you can do that before Wednesday, because I think we're going to jump into the seller version of this same class next. Or maybe it's showing houses. I can't remember what's next. But win the seller. Yep. So that's going to come real quick to do the seller version of this. So if you can do that by Wednesday, then you're good. Okay. Any other questions, or should we end early? Okay. We're done. You guys are awesome. Thanks.